All right, I'd like to call the Village of Cottage Grove Plan Commission to order. It's Wednesday, May 13th. It's 6:31, at least on my watch. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we are holding this via Zoom. And we will, at this point, Lisa will take roll call of commission members.
Brinkmeyer.
I'm here.
Broom.
Present.
Gustafson.
Here.
Ratcliffe.
Ratcliffe here.
Sale. Sorry there. Schultz.
Present.
Williams.
Present.
I believe Kim is here.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
All right, super. Again, this is a Zoom meeting where we are recording. So anything that goes on during the meeting via audio or video or chat is captured. And we do stream that out either on YouTube or on our charter station. The public can connect up to this meeting. There is a Zoom link on the top of the agenda, or they can feel free to capture it via audio as well, because there's a number as well on the top of our Plan Commission agenda. So we have a quorum. The agenda was properly posted. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So find a flag and salute it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, item 4 is public appearances, public's opportunity to speak on any subject, with the exception of, we do have a public hearing this evening regarding the Atwell Suites proposal. So other than that, if the public, I'll just pause for a moment. If the public has anything they would like to speak on, you have your 3 minutes of fame at most, and we will pause and allow anybody to jump in. Most people are on mute, so you'll have to unmute yourself. All right, we'll move on then. Item 5 is discuss and consider the meeting minutes from our Plan Commission meeting that was held on April 15th, and it was included in the Commission's packet.
Motion to approve is presented.
We have a motion to approve from Alex. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Fred. Is there any discussion or edits? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain?
Aye. John Brinkmeyer.
All right. Motion carries. All right. Next, item 6 is actually a public hearing. It's the opportunity for the public to provide input regarding a request from Houston Hotel Group, LLC, for the approval of a general development plan for the Atwell Suites Hotel at 4672 County Highway TT. So in this case, then we will open the public hearing. Again, if anybody that speaks is recorded, so we capture that. If you are, please state your name and where you're affiliated as we go through this as well, so that we capture that for the record. We'll start with the Houston Hotel Group, and they, I'm assuming, have a presentation that they would like to provide for the commission tonight, as well as the public.
Hi, this is Troy Hoekstra. Can you hear me, Aaron?
Yes.
You can? Okay. I wasn't sure if this little setup I have was working or not. I'm Troy Hoekstra with Houston Hotel Partners. I'm representing my partners Wade and Brad Houston, and we are here tonight looking for the public support and for the city's approval on our 96-room Atwell Suites. And we'd like to say on the onset that despite what's happening in our world, we're still enthused about the project. We still see a glide path, if you will, to get this project moving this summer, barring any other catastrophes that we haven't seen yet, and are working diligently to maintain an aggressive timeline to develop this project. One change I would like to mention also is that in the process of designing the project, we would be amending our application. Instead of being a 96-room Atwell Suites, we would be 97 rooms. So it would be our intention to add one additional room, and that's a function of changing our underground parking lot and being able to put some of our mechanical in that area, which gave us the space to pick up an additional hotel room. And so that change will be forthcoming. In recent weeks since we last met, we have worked pretty diligently and carefully with Scott England from DJR. He is our architect from Minneapolis. He is on this presentation as well and available to answer questions, as well as Mike Calkins from Snyder and Associates, who's our civil engineer. And between those two gentlemen, they've put in a significant amount of hours with their teams to submit many of the documents that you've seen. Later tonight, I think, or perhaps it's in this hearing, but we are going to be asking for a PUD zoning, which is going to be necessary for us to do this project based on a couple factors. One is lot coverage and the other being height. And so those are two concerns that we have that we want to address with the community. About 3 weeks ago, on Friday, April 24th, I also held a conference call because we couldn't meet in person due to the restrictions with COVID. We sent letters out to all the neighbors that were within 400 feet of the property, and there were 3. One of those property owners, Houston Hotel Partners and Wade and Brad, have actually purchased real estate from, so we didn't expect him to participate, but neither of the other 2 neighbors participated. And just to kind of cover my bases, I reached out and got in touch with one of the neighbors, and she did confirm she wasn't able to make the call and didn't have any concerns. So that was a requirement that was met. The challenges that we see with the site at this point, or with the project, number one, there's probably going to be a little extra work to obtain some financing. As you probably know, the hotel industry is taking a little bit of a hit right now, and we expect that to come back as cities and governments release the public. And then lastly, we've got some work to do on expenses relative to the excavating of this site, which is essentially right now a hill, and we need to turn that into a parking lot, as well as do our excavation and utilities for the underground parking. So with that, that's the extent of the things that I had to say. If you have any questions of me or of our architect, Scott England, he is on this call, as is Mike from Snyder and Associates.
Troy, this is John Williams. I'm just curious, if you get started this summer with the project, obviously you get through all of this and everything and break ground. When do you expect to be opening the doors then?
Yeah, this is probably a 14-month project, which from a timing perspective works in our favor, given the COVID situation. Just recently, the national hotel chains commissioned CB Richard Ellis, CRBE, one of the largest real estate firms probably in the world. They do a significant amount of volume in the hotel industry, and they put together a pretty comprehensive study looking at past events like 9/11 and similar kinds of events, and provided that data to national franchisee owners like myself. So I'm a partner in a number of Marriott products and other nationally branded hotels. And what that is telling us is that nationally hotel occupancy has gone from the low 60% range into the 20% range on average for nationally branded hotels. So that's where we are today. What does that mean in the future? That means that and I'll use the word glide path again, our glide path to make a hotel viable means we need to be north of 55% occupancy. And according to the studies that they've done and what we've seen, we think that that's going to be a 12 to 14 month glide path to then land safely in that sort of an economic zone. So if this hotel were to break ground, let's say August 15th, just to use a middle of the month number, we would expect that hotel to then be open probably October 1st, 2021 is probably a realistic. It's really a 12-month build, but depending upon, what circumstances and rain and snow and all those fun things, it could stretch to 14 months. So I went a long way to answer your question. October, how's that?
No, thank you.
There's a little more to it than, So, on the one hand, right now it looks a little gloomy, but on the flip side, we've all been around long enough to remember circumstances like this, and we will come out of this, and we'll look back and say, remember when, and just have to stay the course and continue to believe in what we're doing.
Any questions from the commission for Troy? Otherwise, we'll turn it over to Aaron for his staff report.
Just clarifying Troy's recent comment here. When those projections are they made with the understanding of another group looking to do a similar project in Cottage Grove currently?
That's Kyle, correct?
Yes.
Kyle, the numbers that I was talking about, those are national numbers. I don't have any data specifically on Madison, but part of our interest in doing this is that the hotel industry in Madison up until this event was really nothing short of on fire. So I would expect it to return to those levels, assuming that the university and companies like Epic return to their former selves, and we have every confidence that they will. I know the university is looking at some deficiencies. Recently, they published a $170 million shortfall based on tuition reimbursements and other things, but they are making cost cuts across the board at 5% to accommodate for that.
Okay, so the 12 to 14 months to be 55% occupied is just based off of national numbers then?
Yeah,
right?
Those are national numbers reported to CB Richard Ellis through what we refer to as the STAR report, which is Smith Travel Research. All the nationally branded hotels have to report to that entity so that we get real-time data. It doesn't account for independent hotels or smaller chains that don't subscribe to that service, but it does include all of the, Marriott, Holiday Inn, Choice Hotels, all the national brands that you would know. So those were their averages until this situation occurred.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from the commission members? All right, Aaron, you want to walk through your memo?
Sure. Essentially, we're recommending approval of the general development plan at a few conditions in my staff report. And some are less conditions and more just reminders for the applicants. But number one was that the rezone will apply only to the 1.94 acres that were designated on the drawings as the hotel site. The remainder of the property under their ownership would remain under RH rural holding zoning until they come in to have those rezoned as well. The radius of the cul-de-sac in the site plan and the circle drive in the site plan were 45 and 47 feet respectively. public street, we typically look for 60 feet. This is not public, it's private. It could be smaller if it works, but we just want to make sure that the fire department's largest vehicle can get in and out and maneuver the site adequately. I did notice that the drive lanes between the rows of parking were dimensioned at 26 feet. The minimum in our ordinance is 24. If they wanted at 26, that's fine, but there could be an opportunity to reduce some of the pavement and impervious surface on the site if they wanted to make that a little bit smaller. The PIP, I guess we'd like some confirmation of what the highest number of employees on the largest shift is expected to be, just to verify the parking counts are adequate. And then we'd like to verify that the monument signs where they're shown on the site plan wouldn't impair the required vision triangles for our zoning ordinance. If so, they would just have to be shifted a little bit, one way or the other. And Kevin from MSA is online here too. Kevin, if you want to mention anything from your staff report.
Sure. Yeah, in general, I agree with Aaron. I see nothing that obviously can't be worked out within the site plan. I'd say if there's one item that I have brought up and mentioned to them is I did not know how this project or site was going to be developed as far as CSM or plat, not knowing how it was going to happen, but there is some different setback requirements for DOT in discussion with them. And whichever route it takes, I think the site can be handled either way. It's just a matter of determining which route they were planning to go with that. So those are noted on here. And then as well as whether it's a CSM or plat, again, how the underground, it's planned to have stormwater taken care of by underground storage. And if those are going to be separate lots or if there's easements between them, like I said, everything that can be worked out as we get going through it and everything as well. And I've had some discussions regarding some of the grading that they kind of shown originally on here as well. And then it was kind of similar to the truck traffic, just verifying that they can get in and out of the trash enclosure that they showed on the site plan as well. So those are basically the comments I had, but nothing that I didn't think we could work through.
All right. Thanks, Kevin and Aaron. From Commission's perspective, any questions for either Kevin or Aaron from their memos? All right, then the next kind of step of the public hearing is actually for the public's opportunity to comment, if they so choose to, regarding this particular Atwell Suites proposed general plan. So we'll pause and allow anybody from the public to jump in. If you do jump in, just let us know who you are, and we'll take it from there. All right, last call. All right, so at this point then, we will close the public hearing and move on further on the agenda then, which is actually item 7, which is discuss and consider the request from Houston Hotel Group, LLC, for the approval of general development plan for an Atwell Suites Hotel at 4672 County Highway TT.
I'll make a motion to approve the request from Houston Hotel Group LLC for approval of a general development plan for an Atwell Suites Hotel at 4672 County Highway TT.
And I'll second it.
All right. We have a first and second from Melissa and Don. I'm assuming you guys want to include the conditions that were outlined both by MSA as well as Aaron.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And Don, you're okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Super. All right. Any discussion then from commission members? All right, then we'll move on then to, we have a motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody oppose? Anybody abstain?
I'm abstaining.
Okay. Motion carries. One abstention. All right. Then we'll move on to item 8 is discuss and consider a request from Badger Hotel Group for the approval of a precise implementation plan for the Comfort Inn Suites located on parcels 0711-041-2120-1 on Landmark Drive in the Commerce Park. So, Aaron, do you want to cover your bit of this and then?
Yeah, before we get to me, we do have Todd Rizzo here from Grey Wolf, who I think would like to present a little bit of where the project's at here for the PIP.
Okay, sorry. Todd, you can unmute and take over then.
Good evening, everybody. Yeah, I just want to give sort of a brief just overview. I think our package of information is pretty self-explanatory, but this is our last step in the rezoning process for the PUD for our hotel. There's just a little higher level of specificity on the project, with landscaping, signage, and a little more detail on the materials and the colors. So the only major thing, I don't even want to say it's major, that's changed is really sort of the color palette of the project. Choice Brands or Choice Hotel, who we're working with for the Comfort Suites, is rebranding this product type, and it's gone through a little bit of an evolution, and their color palette sort of shifted a little bit from something that was a little closer to one of their other flags. So you'll notice that the colors changed a little bit from a darker kind of brick and some kind of more contrasting colors to, I think, a little softer palette. And with that, there's just one small adjustment to them wanting to bring more of a tower element to the front of the building above the vestibule. So the colors changed, I think, for the better. Again, as we talked about at the last meeting in the GDP, this will be their first project in the country under this new design standard that they're bringing forward. So everything else on the plan, the site plan, the building footprint, the windows, everything has kind of stayed the same except for a few minor tweaks on some of the bump outs on the building and the color palette. So the materials are very similar in the sense that there's still a lot of brick on the building. There's architectural metal and a little bit of EIFS on the building. We've added a full base around the building. I know the last time some of the architectural committee members were concerned about the white color EIFS we had and wanted to bring that brick up. So we actually have a full brick element around the bottom of the building. So that should alleviate that concern. Generally we have 5 different material types on the building. The lower band of the hotel will have a larger beige brick. On the other parts of the building where you see a beige color, that will be just a complementary color brick, but just in smaller pieces that'll just kind of accent that. And then the lighter color, what I call the icicle color, will be a small brick. The brighter blue will be an architectural metal, and the that lighter blue color is the EFIS color. So we included a color palette sheet with our submittal that I think helps define which colors represent what material. And, the only thing that is noted in the application, the bump up for the Choice Tower, the Comfort Suites Tower in the front, that exceeded the prior height that we had for the property by 4 feet, but the rest of the building was dropped by another foot. So we have a full landscaping plan in the package, signage plan. There was one question with MSA's comments that sounded like there was an interpretation that there's 3 monument signs, but there's only 2 that were showing on the property, one on Landmark Drive and one on N.
All right.
And then the only other thing is we are working with the village and MSA on our stormwater infiltration plan. There will be an underground storms chamber to collect all the stormwater. We're working through the final details on that. So pending approvals tonight and working through stormwater, our plan is to break ground in June and start the project. Our project is anticipated in a 10 to 12 month build for our 82 rooms.
All right. Thanks, Todd. Aaron, you want to walk through yours, and then we can go to the commission and see if there's any questions for either you or Todd or Kevin.
Yeah, as Todd pointed out, it's substantially similar to what we saw in the GDP. I think the changes to the elevations are improvements. They're some of the things that the ARC asked for us. So, changes on it also kind of worked for what the ARC wanted. We recommend approval of the PIP. The only condition I had in my staff report, and it's not necessarily directly related to the hotel, also owns the jail building to the north. There's I believe it's a freezer or cooler or something out behind BB Jack's that's currently not screened. We would just like to see that as soon as possible, holding off on that to see how the design around that end of the hotel kind of worked out. But I think now that they have a handle on that, we just like to see that get cleaned up here shortly. I think Kevin may have had some additional comments as well.
Aaron, can I just make one comment on that? And I know that's that element actually is outside the property boundaries of this PUD, but I understand your concern. At the last GDP discussion, I think the way we presented our project was that we were going to kind of work through that common area between the BB Jack's restaurant and the hotel and sort of plan that out as the project evolved and come back to you and staff with a full plan between there, which would take that into account. And whether that stays or moves, I'm not certain. So the hope was that and I think, Joe, you should talk to you and Matt and everybody about that, but that we can work through some of our planning in between the hotel and the restaurant before we make any screening design, decisions on that.
Yeah, Todd, that's totally understandable. It was included in the conditions because a couple months back there was a complaint, and it's just kind of a tricky situation. It's certainly understandable to, we just want to make sure there's a path forward with it in case the complainant comes back. So.
Okay. We just don't want that to hold up the process of what we're doing. We understand, we know that the village has made some statements about addressing that. Joe's not on this call for me to know the exact response, but it's something that we will work on with you. And if you give us a little time, I think we'll be able to address it.
So, Aaron, can I jump in there, I guess, John?
Absolutely.
Sure. So, Aaron, the end sentence of your condition is the applicant shall provide a design for the enclosure for the staff approval. So is this outside of scope and is not really a condition, and you're encouraging collaboration to get this resolved, or is this actually a condition on this precise implementation plan?
Oh, hang on.
I guess it was intended as a condition, but I think given what Todd is saying, we can touch base with Greywolf and their team prior to the board meeting on Monday and maybe come up with a more concrete timeline whether that's separate from this process or not. Just one way or the other, we want to get that addressed.
But it doesn't feel like we can roll that into this. That's kind of what I'm hearing. Yes, it's something we want to work on. We're all being collaborative and we're getting it done. But I'm just not clear that I guess we can do anything, but we really want to tie this in here.
The commissioner prefer to take that out, that's fine, and we'll work with addressing it.
I don't know. Aaron was all broken up for me, so I didn't hear what he said.
I didn't catch it either, Alex.
Okay.
Try it again.
Try it again, please.
That's fine. If that's the plan commission's preference to take that condition out, we'll just work with Greywolf on getting it addressed.
And I guess the only other final comment is, Aaron, you only had one condition. Usually it's you have a lot of stuff for us to look at, so I know you do a good job.
Yeah,
I thank you for all your work on all these projects, actually, but it was just, there's only one, so, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty similar to what we saw at the GDP. There are a lot of comments that I have on it.
Aaron, do you want, or can you have, I think Kevin's on the call. Can he clarify that sign comment he had in his report? Because his report indicated that we had 3 signs that we were requesting. Our application had 2 exterior signs and 2 monument signs. And we asked for flexibility that down the road, if we just wanted to do another exterior sign on N versus the monument, that we'd be able to swap that out. So we don't have 3 monuments, we have just 2. A bigger one on N and a smaller one on Landmark Drive.
Hey, Todd, I am on the phone here. Yeah, and that does answer. I guess I had thought with some of the details you had on there, the 3 monument signs were shown. I did note here in the ordinance that it notes that there is just a total number of freestanding signs in what's the current zoning district there. It's supposedly just 1, where now 2 are being proposed or whatever. So I don't know if that applies necessarily to the proposed zoning, but Aaron would probably know that a little bit more than I would on there as well. And then the one on N, I assume we can work with you on that as well. I just mentioned that there's setbacks on County N, so we'll just have to look at where the placement is and everything once you get more details and everything on it.
Yeah, the reason we're making the request that we are is that per the franchise standards, we have to have a monument sign at the entrance to the hotel, which is Landmark Drive. But from a marketing perspective and location identifier, we want to have signage on N, so when people are coming, they can identify that as the Comfort Suites. We just want flexibility to make a decision whether we just want to do an exterior sign like we have on the northeast wall of the building, or just keep a monument sign.
And that all makes sense to me. I guess, like I said, my report's just reporting what the ordinance is and whether the village, the plan commission recommends, the 2 signs and everything like that. I have no issue with it personally, but I'm just reciting what the ordinances are.
It is one of the things that can be flexible in a planned unit development. So as long as they're showing all those things on the site plans, it's fine.
All right, any
I
questions?
guess
Go ahead.
I can jump in real quick. I had a couple other comments on here, and nothing that I didn't think we could definitely work with Todd on. One of them, I think he had mentioned like the area between the two buildings. It looks like there's a lot line adjustment being done or planned in that area too, but there's some drainage facilities that are for the BB Jack where they are for that building to the north. And, I think we can work with that, whether an easement needs to be done with the lot line adjustment or something like that. Just something to look at, like you said, if you're going to verify that area.
Yeah, there currently is an easement through that area. It's really a utility easement. Okay. There's a storm sewer pipe that runs through there, but it is something we discussed at the GDP that we would be looking at sort of a shared access agreement, cross easement through there to have and encumber permanently.
Okay.
So we haven't fully evaluated what exactly we want to do on that.
Nope.
We understand your point. And then also as that area gets developed, hard surface versus, impervious areas or pervious areas, we'll figure out the proper drainage through that area if it needs any additional. But we do have some additional, as you've probably seen on our drafts of the stormwater stuff we sent around, some additional storm pipes that are coming back through there to collect the roof drainage.
Yep, and I guess I would second what Todd had mentioned as well, just so everybody, Plan Commission knows, like I said, they have submitted some stormwater stuff to us that our stormwater engineer has reviewed. He's had a couple comments on it, but in general, he feels very confident of what they've done here now with some tweaks that it looks, it's going to work with the site plan and everything. So he felt confident in that. And then just, I guess there was, to address like some traffic information. I had our traffic engineer look at on the last page of my comment thing there, just kind of basically some estimated trips based on like the hotel compared to if that was a fast food restaurant or a variety store or different things. And in general, if it wasn't a hotel and it was something else that was there, it obviously, depending on what was there, there's, a fast food place would make a lot more trips than what the hotel is and different things like that. So it's just kind of showing in general that the number of trips that they're providing or making with this site is reasonable. And it does kind of mention at the bottom that this is more outside the scope of this specific project, but, as the intersection there of Commerce Parkway and Landmark Drive, the village may want to start looking at that a little bit more if development continues to happen, say farther to the east on Gaston Road or something like that. So, but as far as this itself, it's just some comparable numbers on here.
Okay, any questions from commission members? Is there a motion then to consider?
I'll make a motion to approve the request from Badger Hotel Group for the approval of a precise implementation plan for Comfort Suites Hotel located on parcel number 0711041210-1 2120-1 on Landmark Drive in the Commerce Park.
Is there a second?
Ratcliffe will second.
All
With
right.
conditions? Alex, did you mean with conditions?
There's no conditions that I saw, so I don't.
For MSA's conditions?
MSA had comments. I didn't see necessarily they were conditions. That's the way his memo is written. So he had comments on the general site plan, comments on the monument sign. His memo didn't call out conditions like Aaron's did. So.
Got it. Okay, so without conditions.
Yep.
Just as you read it.
Yes.
Okay, I will second.
All right, we have a first and second then, Alex and Melissa. Any further discussion from commission members? All right, having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Anybody abstain?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Then we move on then to item 9. Item 9 is yes, thanks, Todd.
Thank you very much.
Item 9 is a presentation from Moving Out regarding a comprehensive plan, future land use designation of lots 86, 87, and 88 of North Lawn Estates, first edition. For feedback only, no action required from the commission.
Yeah, we have Megan Schutz on the line from Moving Out. I think she'd like to do a little presentation, kind of show us what they're thinking for this site. So Megan, if you can go ahead and feel free to share your screen, see if that works.
All right, let's give it a shot here. Share screen. Let me know if you guys can see it.
Got it.
You can.
And is it full screen?
No.
No, it's in this goofy. Yep, I was worried that that would happen. So I think I have to change this. How about now?
There you go.
All right. I figured out the technology. Yay. All right, everyone. My name is Megan Schutz, real estate developer with Moving Out. I've also got Adam Frendahl, who's the architect for the proposed project from JLA Architects. So he and I will be kind of sharing a few things with you. We were actually in front of the Plan Commission, gosh, probably about 9 months ago with a site on Cottage Grove Road, the Metcalf site next to the CVS. And we started that process and went through and submitted a number of funding applications, and we're actually very successful in all of them, and then ran into a bit of a roadblock with that site. And since over the last 3 or 4 months, I've spent time looking for a site that we felt was another great affordable housing site in Cottage Grove. So that's kind of the backstory and why it might look familiar or sound familiar, because really what we're proposing is the exact same project. I'm going to run through a few things here just to kind of give a refresher. Moving Out, we are a statewide nonprofit that focuses on providing affordable housing for households where one family member has a permanent disability. And we focus on integrated housing, which means that we never really have more than 20 to 25% of our units set aside for our target population. The idea there is that we want to provide integration on all levels. So whether it's how much you make, whether or not you have a disability, it doesn't matter. Everyone has the same community-based living opportunities. Moving Out has been around for 25 years this year. We're supposed to have like a big to-do for that. It's just not going to happen. It's going to be online apparently. But 25th anniversary this year, and we've been doing real estate, multifamily real estate development for about 10 to 15 of those years. To date, have developed over 15 properties, 1,000 affordable units, and then about 250 of those are community integrated affordable housing. We are in the process this year of, we're about a month away from closing and starting construction on a site on Cottage Grove Road as well, at the former Century site in Madison. We have a proposed development in the Wisconsin Dells that will be closing and starting construction this summer as well. We have the same project team that we talked about previously. So Moving Out will be owner, we're the developer, and then service coordinator. For architecture, we've engaged with JLA Architects, and our GC would be McGann Construction. Team members that have worked together before, which is important, and that I think are known and respected in the local community as well. And then I noted a few of our service partners, and I'll touch on that quickly in a couple of slides as well. really an overview of the proposed project is the same as what it was, just under a year ago. We're talking about 100 units, a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. They will be targeted to a mix of affordability levels, kind of falling into that workforce housing mix that is kind of the trendy term now, anywhere from 30% of county median income to 80%. We do have all of our competitive financing in place, or more difficult financing in place. We have our WIDA tax credits. We have our Dane County Affordable Housing Funds of $1.55 million and State of Wisconsin Home Funds of $500,000. One of the things that kind of made us a little later in getting back to you with the new site was ensuring that all of those funding sources were comfortable with moving to a new site, and we've gotten approval from all of them. We would anticipate applying for TIF financing. That's probably going to be part of the conversation about the proposed site. And then our goal is that we're starting construction in October and delivering units by the end of next year. The important component of having all of our financing in place is we're able to move relatively quickly when it comes to affordable housing. There's no additional competitive process that we have to wait for to move forward. So that's very exciting, and we're excited about the opportunity to bring affordable housing to Cottage Grove as we hope to find a site that we think would be conducive. Just to touch quickly on services, because this is something that typically comes up with questions that people have. We do resident service coordination, and our goal is that services aren't tied to your housing, that you still have choice, but that we want to make sure that we give anyone who needs access to services, whatever that might be, we make sure to connect them to the folks that provide those services. So whether you're a veteran, an adult with a disability, a child with a disability, perhaps you have mental health needs, or families experiencing homelessness, which is something to consider in Dane County, especially in our current situation. So we have established MOUs with all of these service providers, long-standing relationships. In addition, we also offer empowerment services, financial literacy, income tax preparation, homebuyer education, which is actually provided by my counterparts at Moving Out as well. And the goal is that we coordinate those relationships and those services specifically to the units that are targeted to folks with disabilities. We have a strong network of relationships with the family care system in Dane County, and we really work on establishing services to ensure that all residents are successful and able to act as full citizens. We like to focus on the strengths and gifts of our residents to help as they help provide input on what their community looks like. So that's an overview of where we're at, and then I'm going to hand it off to Adam to talk a little bit about this site, which is a little smaller than the site we saw previously, but we've made some adjustments to still accommodate the additional units. So I'll let you take it over, Adam.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Adam Frednall with JLE. We're going to run through a few very schematic plans, which are more along the lines of a test fit diagram, really, to assure that the program that Moving Out has been working with fits the site and we can make it desirable for residents, both in terms of amenity spaces and open spaces and access to daylight. So as you can see, we've kind of created a U-shaped building with a central entrance from the Windsor Avenue side. This is obviously where vehicular entrances are going to be. Is on N, there aren't any curb cuts, no pedestrian access over there. Central to the surface parking is a green space for the residents, including a playground and potentially some garden plots. Again, we're really early. These are programmatic things that we talked about on the old site that we hope will carry over, but it's all in progress. lower level parking, we'll get to that next, but was access from the private drive on the north side of the site there. We're also showing in blue down in the corner about 1,000 square feet of retail space. Now, intuitively, it seems odd at first glance to have retail space back here, but considering N is not really a pedestrian thoroughfare, and all vehicles have to come around to the side anyways, that's the gas station next door. This may be a viable commercial space for this, and the reason for including it, of course, is the current zoning. Can we go to the next slide, please?
Oops, that's me. Sorry.
Real quick on this, again, 100 units, heavy on the larger units, so there's 45 three-bedrooms. You can see on the parking counts, we've got 132 covered parking and 65 on the surface right now, which is pretty generous. Okay, next slide.
Yeah, and just to speak on the unit mix, we really targeted a unit mix that was identified to the Dane County Housing Study and the lack of unit types, and larger unit types for families was what we heard from a variety of sources as something that was missing in terms of affordability in Cottage Grove.
Thanks, Megan. Real quick on here, so it's a quick layout of stall count. Go to the next one. On the top two floors, everything stacks pretty well. The main difference, this is the ground floor again, but as you see by the elevator entrance lobby, there's a club room and a fitness room flanking either side of that central stair. And then as we go up to the next level, those become two-bedroom units. So we've got a very efficient floor plan here. It fits on the site pretty well. We're just beginning to design, so the next few slides here, I'm going to go through some imagery of different, quite frankly, they're JLA projects that we've done around town, some in Milwaukee, most of them in the Madison area. Go ahead. This first one is called Meadow Ridge. This is an affordable project that JLA completed with McGann Construction a few years ago. It's over in Middleton. So this, stylistically, this is kind of, it has a traditional masonry base, which I think we would propose on this building. It's just a good idea to have a solid foundation to the building visually and practically. And bringing the brick up in some strategic locations, depending on how budget works out and where it makes sense. But you can see that in this building, the brick was brought up on the corners to really anchor them, and the color pulls through across the top, and some accents at the balconies. Next.
Yeah, and I would just add quick on sharing some of the images. We just wanted to give a sampling of options, and kind of, as I was going through these, I was like, I really like this piece of this one and this piece of that one, but just to show the variety that is available, and hoping to get feedback, from the community and from the village as well as we go through that. I'll go to the next one here.
Absolutely. So, an example, the next couple do show pitched roofs, and that certainly is an option on a 3-story building. This one has a little bit more masonry. And basically they're combinations of brick on this one, and the siding is fiber cement or LP, both in flat panel form, trim, and lap siding. Next. So just another example of the pitch roof project. This one, I believe, is called Woodlands. Is in the Milwaukee area. There's a very similar project like this called 22 Slate over off American Parkway. Next. This one also is by American Parkway. It's called 5020. This has got a little more contemporary feel to it, a little more rhythm in terms of repetition of elements, which can have a very powerful effect on how you experience the building from the outside. Next. East Washington, Factory District Apartments. This has some ground floor retail that faces East Wash. It's one of the things we hope to get some feedback on, and that's, this, albeit there is a retail space and not having frontage on Cottage Grove for practical parking reasons and access reasons, there is that central stair and fitness room and club room on the ground floor that could look a little more commercial to help break up that elevation. And we wanted to see how the group here felt about those kind of ideas and how much we would be, people think would be appropriate. Next. One called Forte is in Greenfield by Milwaukee. This is getting a little more contemporary in terms of forms and gestures, where you have masonry base and some larger moves, if you will, of these forms that creates geometries that wrap corners. Next. Jade at North Hills. This is another example of corner retail and commercial space on the ground floor with residential above. It's pretty easy to make things look commercial just by the window types that you use at the ground floor. So, for instance, that retail corner as well as the fitness room and club room could have more glass than what you would typically put at a residential unit. Next. This one is over on the east side of Madison. And again, it's just kind of got a nice feel to it with some varying colors. Some similar themes. Next. This one is a view of one of several buildings at a project called Ballpark Commons in Milwaukee. It's a large development around what will hopefully be a minor league baseball field. UWM will be playing there. There's a golf facility, indoor sports facility, and several apartment buildings, both normal apartments as well as townhomes. There's a few stacked flats building, but this has got it's an interesting combination of some classical or traditional, I should say, feel at the ground floor, and it gets a little more contemporary with some of the forms on the corners. Next.
That's it.
Oh, yeah, that's it. So, those images, if anyone wants me to pull them back up, if they have comments or something that you think would be a good fit for the area, we'd be happy to hear it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, and so, again, we didn't want to come with, here's what we think you should put on there right now. We like to kind of take more of a holistic approach to design. So just wanted to share some examples. And then really looking to get feedback. We've been working with the village for almost a year now, actually, as I was working to put together financing applications last summer that we were successful in. So, we've analyzed this site as compared to the previous site in terms of marketability and love the connections that it provides to employment and other amenities in Cottage Grove, great access to park and rides and the interstate. So we're very excited about this opportunity, excited to have worked with Andrew Homburg and Homburg Equipment to get site control for this site and have it still fit within our financing plan that we had in place. And it's all kind of lined up in that regard, which is really lovely, actually. So that's all I have officially prepared, but happy to answer questions and definitely looking for feedback and comments.
Any feedback or questions from the commission?
I guess I'd like to see the pitched roof design kind of going into that particular neighborhood. That'll kind of keep the residential feel. I don't think we need a commercial component in there. I'm not sure how well that would do. And I like the fact that you did add the underground parking. That was something I brought up on the last site that you did not have. That's it.
All right. Other comments or feedback from commission members?
I guess Kyle speaking here. Just a quick question. Prior to action being taken, would the I do air quotes affordable housing 20 to 80%, I believe I heard. Would that be narrowed down to an exact percentage prior to moving forward?
So those are actually the county median income. So all of the units will be affordable at different levels of county median income. So there will be some, and the most deeply targeted ones, the 30% ones, are going to be typically what we call the moving out units. So the folks that have a household that has a member with a disability, and those, in our experience, tend to be those with more limited incomes. Those would be on the lower end of the spectrum, all the way up to 80%, which, 80% rents can be, $2,000 a month for, depending on the unit size. I can grab that if that's requested. But, there's quite a variety of incomes within that, which is something that was important to us to ensure that there's enough of a market. We didn't want to be too heavy in any specific size, but that we were still able to fund and still targeted the greatest need in the area.
Alex here. Can you remind me again, what happens with the taxes? There was something different, I think, with this in taxes, and I think some of the rents still seem like pretty big numbers. So what happens with the property taxes again? It's not based on the land, it's based on your income or the profit or something like that. Just remind us what happened there again.
So affordable projects are taxed based on their income. The value of the building is limited, in the general marketplace, it's going to be much higher than it is when you take the income approach. I shouldn't say that, but I'm kind of like just talked myself into a corner, which wasn't my point. But we do, it's just based on the income, where our rents are artificially restricted to ensure affordability, which means there's just less income coming in. But on average, we start at a minimum of about underwriting at about $1,000 a unit annually in taxes. And that would be further conversation with your assessor to kind of work through the details of that. But that's on average what I start with in my model.
Alex, that's actually an option in the state law on property tax, because a commercial, any kind of commercial property or rental property can take advantage of that same formula.
Right. I don't think we have any right now. I mean, and I think, so you're saying the starting rent is about $1,000?
It's a whole range. It depends on the unit size and what county median income level you're at. I can actually.
So you take a grant. So like rounding the numbers, just so I understand it. You say you take $1,000 as the average rent, and then you put in their base salary based on the historical averages. And then there's a calculation that says, okay, if this unit is normally $1,000, you pay $300. Or how does that?
So no. How it works is that those rent and income limits are established annually by HUD, and we have a certain number of units at that each income level. And that is essentially, rent limits are established based on saying that you shouldn't be paying more than about 30% of your income to housing. That's technically supposed to be all inclusive of your utilities and everything else as well. I was just sorry, I didn't have my model handy, and I'm just pulling this up so I can give better information. The $1,000 I was talking about was tax payment. So what I underwrite per unit for taxes paid to the municipality on an annual basis. So for example, you can have a 3-bedroom 30%, which would be the most deeply targeted unit, would rent for about $674. But a 3-bedroom 80% as of right now, and we've limited our 80% rents a little bit, because if you go up to the actual max, to me, that are not affordable. So a 80% 3-bedroom would be $1,575. So it'd be kind of a range between those, and it would also be dependent, 1s and 2s would have breaks in there as well. But it's quite a range, and it's intended to ensure that people aren't paying too much towards their housing costs to free up their income to do other important things with.
So just to clarify, Alex, I believe what she's saying is that if you have a 15 unit, you pay $15,000 a year in taxes, and if you have a 30 unit, you pay $30,000 a year in taxes. If you get, that's where the $1,000 came from.
Yeah, and that's just an estimate, so don't put that into any machine somewhere. It could be more. It likely will be more. I would imagine, based on Dane County, but that's my starting point.
But yeah, I guess I just don't know how that compare. I guess I have to see the math how that would compare if it was not, I guess the rent controlled model. Yeah, Cottage Grove is a small village, and there's, where we fight to get leaf collection. We fight to get other things in the tax base. The commercial industries that we bring in, and the higher density housing really helps, with that type of stuff. So I guess that would really be kind of something for me to continue to look at.
Megan, what is the median income for the county currently?
Ooh, I knew that question was going to come up. If you give me 10 seconds, I will pull up my reference point here. The 2020 income limits did come out. So, Dane County, 40, 50. So it depends on your unit, your household size. But if you are a 4-person household, median income in Dane County is about $100,000. So for a 50% unit, when I was talking about the 30 to 80% targeting, that lowers that income to $50,000.
And that's assuming that 2 people in the 4-person household are working then.
It's just a total, so it doesn't really matter. Every adult, anyone over the age of 18, does have to be qualified and has their income calculated. But it's just 4 people. It could be 2 adults and 2 kids. It could be 1 adult with 3 kids. There's a lot of different approaches that could be.
Okay.
I guess going off of that question, is there any stipulations inside of your product where 4 people can not get together or get together to divide that out?
So roommate situations are allowed, but everyone still has to qualify. So it's unlikely that you would say have 4 adults share a 2-bedroom and stay under $50,000 a year, right? So that's really not a situation we run into very much. We do limit no more than 2 people per bedroom, but when you go through the tax credit regulations and approval process, every adult has to qualify at every level for background, for credit, and income.
So the maximum in a 2-bedroom unit would be 4 adults, is what you're saying?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So, Megan, this site's a little bit narrower than the previous one, and you're still proposing the same size building. Is there any concern about fitting that there? Maybe this is more of a question for Adam, I guess.
Sure.
Sure. I'm happy to pull the site plan back up to show you what the main difference is here. So on the previous site that we were looking at on Cottage Grove Road, we did not have parking under the building. We were able to accommodate all of it on the surface, which meant that there was an access drive behind the building that went all the way through. So that's where that extra depth helped because we had a double-loaded drive on the back of the building where we picked up a lot more parking. With this organization, it's basically the same building. It's a little bit smaller because we were carrying 108 units in that scheme before. We're at exactly 100 now. But bringing the parking underneath the building like this allows us to park it adequately and not have, a long, full length of the building parking lot. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you, Adam.
Yep. Should I leave this up here for now?
Sure. I had a question as far as, so there won't be a sidewalk on the highway end side, is that correct? Because currently there isn't in front of the gas station either. It's on the east side of highway N.
Yeah, I mean, we're open if that's something that the village would be interested in, but it would at this point be a sidewalk to nowhere. So, but that's always something we can work through. It's a little, really the walkability of this site is on the west side of the site, and as it faces, the number of residential buildings on that site.
Right. And then maybe I missed it. How much of a project is this? How many millions?
You didn't miss it. I'm going to look real quick, so I'm giving good information.
I'm asking you. I'm asking you questions there.
Nope, that's fine. So it's about a $24 million project.
Okay. And one last comment I would say is I agree with Don. I don't think it needs commercial there either. I think it kind of looks out of place. So thanks, Megan and Adam.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions from the commission?
I just had one to clarify. So the land in the building does not play into the tax at all. It's just strictly based off of income. Is that correct? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there a management company that will manage it when it's all over? And do they manage all of the sites, or will it be specific for this one?
So we always partner with a third-party experienced tax credit property management firm. Right now, we're looking to work with ACC Management, who we have a number of partnerships with already in Stoughton, and they will be managing the project actually just down Cottage Grove Road as well. But they manage thousands of units across Wisconsin.
I just have a question. Do municipalities put a minimum of tax base brought into the community on projects of this type? You know?
So we are, depending on the conversation about how interested you guys are in seeing commercial space there, but we would anticipate a TIF application. And we have seen and done developments where there's a minimum guarantee tax payment as part of that, if there's funding coming into the project. I don't know. Beyond that, I've not had guaranteed minimum payments unless there's an agreement otherwise that we're signing together.
Yeah, I would just I agree with that, Megan. It's and Kyle. It comes down to the TIF negotiation. Otherwise, it's really just the assessment. It comes down to the assessor's formula. Otherwise.
Yeah, well, I mean, the typical assessor formula doesn't apply here. I guess the income is out of our control, so it's a little open-ended for the village to go into without a baseline. So that's what I was getting at, is just as a question, like, because you could just write your income down to zero every year and then there's no tax. And so I'm not saying you do that. I'm just saying that if it's open-ended like that, it could be drafted that way. So that's what I was trying to get at. If you say, hey, minimum of, X amount of dollars per unit, then that at least has a baseline.
Kyle, my understanding is that it's based on what the income potential is on it. It's not the actual income per se. So even if they have vacancies, that whatever the value of the rent is, potential rent, that's what that would be. And then usually, my experience with that, then they usually do, they usually will do that factor, to get an assessment. But it's based on the income. I'm kind of at a loss for the moment. You're in the real estate. What's the factor you'd use on a commercial project? Basically, the income times a multiplier, and that would give you the assessed value. I don't know if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I'm following you. I guess I was just curious on who established that baseline of
Well, the applicant would give would give their side of it, but then the assessor would also have their opportunity to calculate it out what they think it is. So it's not just my experience is our assessor would also have a say on this, and it would be negotiated. So they would also calculate it. Both parties would calculate what they think the value is based on the potential income.
It's just most of the time assessors are going off of sales and values as opposed to rentals. So establishing what potential rents could be difficult for leaning on an assessor. That's all I'm saying. But,
yeah, so that is something that we would work with the assessor on, and typically I'm going to guess Cottage Grove is this way, that you use kind of a company that works in lots of different municipalities. So you're likely going to have someone who's experienced it before, and it's just a matter of kind of taking a look. When we close on this and we set the income levels, those can't change, period. And all of my debt doesn't change. So I'm highly motivated to bring in the rents I need to. So I think it actually gets recorded as a land use restriction against the property, so that the targeting does. So how many at 30, 60, whatever. So that's something that we're held to for the length of the affordability period, which is 30 years.
That's what I'm getting at. That's your established baseline.
Yes.
Is what I'm getting at. Is that I didn't know how that was handled. So thank you.
Yep. Absolutely.
Cap rate is the term I was looking for.
There you go. I blinked too. You were saying it, and I'm just not going to say anything because I won't sound smart right now.
Yeah. So cap rates, there's a couple places that actually quarterly publish them for pretty specific uses and projects. And so that cap rate would be multiplied times the income to give the value of the property. And like I said, that's actually a state statute where a lot of properties have the ability or the option to do their assessment based on that. But once again, the assessor also has they make a calculation as well. So the two may have to do a little negotiating to see what the final number comes up at. So it's not like the village is just going to be, well, here's the numbers and you're stuck with it.
Absolutely. We deal with this conversation every year, even in cities where we've been there for like 10 years and someone comes in and no one told them, and we we keep having conversations. So absolutely open to having those discussions.
How many rooms again? Sorry.
It's 100 units.
100 units. Okay. That's all for me. Thanks.
Any other questions from commission?
I apologize. This is my first meeting. If this may or may not be the time to ask this. Is the Harmony one of your properties?
It is not.
Okay.
You read the news today, didn't you?
I did, yeah. And the management company that you said that you use was the company that was managing that property.
Yeah, they actually stepped out of that at the end.
Right.
For
the problems
there's a reason they did, and I'll leave. I won't say more than that. But we have had those conversations because that's actually the same district that our project that we're closing here shortly is in the city of Madison. So we had lots of conversations about that.
Okay.
But yeah, they manage other stuff for us with no issues.
So is it a location problem? I don't know. So everyone knows what I'm talking about. The Harmony building was, what did they deemed a nuisance by the city?
Yeah.
So for shootings and things of that nature, and it's a similar type of project. So I'm just wondering, what. So
I could probably talk to you offline about lots of different reasons that some affordable housing is successful and some isn't.
Mm-hmm.
In my experience, a lot of that comes down to decisions made by ownership, and management sometimes just inherits those decisions.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Yes. Sorry, John. That brings me to another question I just thought of. Megan, how often do you have turnover in your apartments?
So I would, moving out has a higher than average retention rate and lower than average eviction rate, especially in the units that we have. I don't have, of course, you're asking me the one that's sitting in like a notebook on my real office desk right now. But especially the targeted units for folks with disabilities, once people are in, they don't leave. We have just above average occupancy rates and a really good history of retaining folks, which is important for the long-term viability of a project, but also I think a testament to the type of community moving out builds. Any city that we've done developments in, Madison, Stoughton, if you see a cat climbing a screen behind me, I'm sorry, that's her new thing. But yeah, great relationship with municipalities that we work with and have often been asked to come back and do more. But that being said, your vacancy rate in Cottage Grove is like 2%, which is the equivalent of no vacancy.
Right.
You know, so the need is quite great.
Exactly. Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other questions or comments from commission members? All right. Thanks, Megan. And thanks, Adam, for joining us this evening.
So Aaron, can I ask just a quick question? In terms of the comprehensive plan conversation, do we need to talk about that at all here, or do we kind of get the info we needed, or?
In the sense I'm getting is that there's interest in moving this forward. So I think the next step would be to, draft up the actual text and images that would go into the plan.
Okay.
And bring that back to the planning commission,
Great.
Based off of this project.
Sounds good. And I shared my presentation via PDF with Aaron if anyone would like to see it. It's got my contact information. Happy to answer questions. Sometimes in new approaches to projects, you don't think of the question until you drive home. Well, wait, there's no drive home. But until later, and happy to at any point share if anyone wants to see and touch any of our projects. That's always an option as well. But we appreciate the time and looking forward to moving forward on getting some affordable housing in Cottage Grove.
All right. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
We will move then on to item 10, discuss potential zoning ordinance amendments related to the conditional use permits for feedback only, no action needed by the commission. Aaron, I think this is you. You got a fairly significant memo in the packet.
There's a lot there. I think we can cover it really quickly. Basically, where we left off last time was that I was going to do some research on nearby communities to find examples of how conditional uses are treated in various ordinances and the kind of details and criteria that are included. And there was, quite a range of examples. There were a lot of communities where there's really no description or criteria of the conditional uses at all. They're just kind of listed in a chart and they say they're permitted or conditional. So I don't know how you would really apply the new statutes and those conditions. The example I provided in the memo was from Sun Prairie, which I think did do a good job of having a lot of very detailed conditions, maybe in some cases too detailed for a lot of the uses we talked about, as far as the different types of animal boarding, the bed and breakfasts, payday lenders, things like that. The other thing I pulled out of their ordinance, just to have everybody take a look at their regulations for things like sidewalk cafes and outdoor seating for restaurants are considerably more detailed than what we have. I just wanted to get a little bit of feedback on that. I think what they have is probably overkill, but that's another topic we could get into as we're making some of these changes. So I wasn't going to go through each and every one. I was more just kind of interested in, is this the right level of detail and the right type of criteria that we would use in our ordinance, and if so, we can take this and kind of tweak it to how it would apply specifically in the village.
All right. Thanks, Aaron. Any comments or questions from commission members? Aaron, my comment would be on you brought up Sidewalk Cafe, and I would agree that this is quite extensive, but is your recommendation we probably need to beef ours up a little bit, though, and is why you highlighted this, or?
I guess I'm not sure we do. Right now, the way ours is set up, if it's less than 20 outdoor seats, we just kind of say it's permitted within the regular approval of a restaurant. Anyway, there's nothing special required to have a limited number of seating. If it's more than 20 seats, something like Oakstone, which has kind of a large patio in the back with a lot of seats, then that got folded into their outdoor commercial entertainment accessory use, which is a conditional use currently. There's not a lot of specific criteria attached to that, so we might want to, again, thinking about how this would have to be applied under the new statute and having established criteria, there might be a little more we have to put in as far as that goes. But I think the approach of having, either permitted by right for a smaller number or conditional use for a larger number of seats is probably appropriate.
And then you're saying conditional use in the larger situation, we may want to add a little more verbiage there, is what you're gathering from what you're seeing by your research.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds reasonable to me.
That makes sense.
I certainly like the approach. I think certainly we've received feedback, certainly from Larry, that this is probably a good way to take this. And Larry, I don't know if you want to comment anything on this. I don't know if you've been involved yet, but I'll let you speak if you would like.
Yeah, I looked at it's Aaron's really developing. This is a good stepwise approach, and there's a lot of opportunities for the commission to provide input here as we move along. And I think that it's really on the right track. It's to the point now where I should probably engage with Aaron on some of the suggestions I might make to change, or just put our heads together on it. But it's going in the right direction. If based on the feedback we're getting from the commission, I think it's feasible to build something here with these conditional use permits that really provides predictability, which is the whole point of this exercise.
Yeah, and to me that makes a lot of sense, that approach. And Aaron's moved this far enough along that, I would agree with Larry that it's probably time to start, putting a little bit of legal ease on part of it as well, and then getting it back in front of the commission to chew on again. Any comments, questions, concerns from the commission members? Everybody's quiet tonight. What's going on? Not normal. Is it a full moon tonight or something? What's going on? All right. And I think obviously that means, Aaron, you're moving in the right direction. And I think as long as no one opposes, I think Larry's suggestion, we should move kind of in that next step with him starting to get involved, unless someone speaks otherwise.
I agree with that too.
All right, thank you. All right, that is it as far as formal agenda items. We do have future agenda items. Aaron or Matt, you have things we'll obviously hear back perhaps from Atwell Suites.
Yeah, whether they turn that around in 1 month or not, I'm not sure. We'll have to talk to them about that. But certainly they have the one more step to go through. We'll keep talking about the conditional uses. Like you said, we'll get Larry involved in drawing up some actual text for that. I think some of these comp plan issues, both the moving out site we just looked at and Tim Olson's site. We want to kind of wrap those together into one amendment.
And just, sorry, go ahead, Don.
I said we may want to talk to moving out a little more about the whole tax situation before they get too far along too. You know what I mean? Maybe review some of their numbers before they spend a whole lot of money on planning and all that to make sure that we're agreeable on the what they're looking at assessment wise. Just a thought.
I was going to make a similar suggestion, Don, based on that presentation. I think it might be worthwhile to ask them to get in contact with the village's assessor and make sure that their expectations are reasonable.
Yeah.
That sounds reasonable. And then, Aaron, do you just want to remind the commission member, you said Tim Olson property, you want to just educate everybody where you're speaking of? I think everybody knows, but I just want to make sure.
Yeah, that was the property down off of kind of that corner of Vilas and Coffeetown. Not the actual corner, but kind of surrounding the parcel on that corner. He's kind of expanding the neighborhood that he had been looking at a couple of years ago. He's been in a few times earlier this year and had a layout that I think we were pretty comfortable with. So just kind of moving that forward and making the actual change for the comp plan as well.
Okay, thanks, Aaron. Any other future agenda items from commission members that they can think of right now? All right, then we have the final agenda item, adjournment. Anybody want to make a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Fred and Melissa. Is non-debatable. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? You can't oppose it, so there you go. Everyone have a good evening.